Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey with Stephanie and Erika. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and I'm also a professor. And please excuse the coronavirus hair as I have not been able to get to a haircut person, otherwise known as a hair cutter. Let's get to the TV show.
It is my first time being so up close and personal with her boobs. And it's nice, but there's people around us. And it just feels a little bit too much right now.
So I find it a little interesting that at least the producers or Erika didn't ask Stephanie, by the way, we're going to go down to this thing where they ask you to take off your clothes and there's going to be cameras filming you for, this reality TV show. I'm surprised that they didn't run that past her. I would imagine a lot of people would not be comfortable doing this sort of thing. They're playing the funny music, which I'm thinking is supposed to indicate an emotion of that Stephanie is being awkward, that she's making things awkward. I suppose there's a way to deal with this, which is to be, for Stephanie, it's just like, oh, you know what? I'm not really into this. Sorry. Could we do something else? Stephanie is not really being fun in her refusal to do this sort of thing.
Do you think either of you would move countries to be together?
I mean, we've talked about it briefly.
Yeah.
I don't see it really working long distance for a very long time.
How long is a very long time for you? Because I have weddings, but I'm a photographer and I have weddings booked.
I'm not trying to be difficult, but the longer the distance is between us, the larger strain it's going to put on our relationship.
So this is another one of those things that I think, why haven't you talked about this prior to this moment? I mean, it's okay when you're first starting to date that maybe you don't talk about the tough things, but I would imagine that this subject would be something that would be important to discuss prior to this event.
I am feeling really pressured by Steph because she's pretty much telling me that this relationship is not going to work unless I move to New York. And we're only on day 2.
Well, I thought we discussed you wanting to come to New York. It's something that you brought up and said that you would be interested in doing. And that's why I'm here, to pursue that.
I totally understand that, but also you're telling me that you want to have this next big relationship and whatever. And then on the other hand, you're essentially telling me you're not ready to be intimate. And that's really confusing.
So I think both people are valid here. For Erika, she's like, well, at this point, I'm not going to talk about moving to New York because we're not really close yet. But the way she worded it was essentially, unless you have sex with me, it's hard for me to commit moving to New York, which I have to say, in another context, gender-wise, would be a not so welcomed thing to say on international TV. But from Erika's perspective, it makes sense. It's in a bigger picture sense, in that our relationship is extremely in the beginning stages right now, and I'm getting some vibe from you, Stephanie, that you don't want to move forward. And so I'm not sure if you will ever want to move forward. And so it's hard for me to commit to moving when I don't know if you're really in this relationship or not. So, and it makes sense from Stephanie's perspective of, well, if I'm going to trust you and I'm going to invest my emotions in this relationship, then I'm going to have to know that you're at least willing to think about moving to New York City. And this is what, as a couples therapist, I'm always thinking about how someone like me in my profession could really help these two people in this moment, because both people are coming from legitimate places. And a different way to reframe it, as we call it in my business, would be, okay, Stephanie, tell me if this is true for you. That in order for you to invest emotionally and in order for you to feel safe in this relationship, you want to know that Erika is at least willing to consider moving to the United States to be with you if that conversation comes around later in the future. Right now, it's a little unusual to talk about that right now, given the beginning stages of your relationship. But for you, Stephanie, you want to feel safe, you want to feel close, and you want to know that at least it's a possibility for her, that if you two fall in love, she would definitely consider moving to the United States to be with you. And for you, Erika, you are wanting Stephanie to understand that it's hard for you to commit to moving to the United States until the relationship is deeper and that you can depend on it more, that you can feel like this is a good enough relationship. The other thing I would want to know from the two of them, I guess particularly from Erika, is would she rather have Stephanie move to Australia? Because, why is this? I guess it's before the 90 days. Maybe that's the assumption, is that it's always someone outside the United States moving to the United States. I don't know. But of course, Erika has every right to say, look, if we fall in love, let's move to Australia.
So with the booby paper mache, I get that you would get a certain kind of impression of what I'd be down for based on my social media. A lot of people get the wrong idea about who I am.
To be honest, yeah, I thought you were going to be a little bit different, but I'm definitely here to reassure you, my feelings for you are very strong.
That means a lot to me.
Okay, so that's great. Erika is saying, based on your social media, I thought you were much more extrovertedly sexual and more out there sexual. And so this is a bit of a change, but I'm still dedicated to the relationship and I really like you. And Stephanie is saying, thank you, that means a lot to me. And I wish that maybe Stephanie would apologize a little bit for giving the wrong impression. Not like begging for forgiveness, but just saying, oh yeah, you know what? I have two different personas that, just a little bit more. I'm always looking for that. I don't know if it's just because of me, I'm a very talkative person, but I find that when you're trying to smooth things over, sometimes a little bit more context will help the other person understand you better.
I have a question. Mm-hmm. You were showing me a picture on your phone yesterday.
Yeah.
And I saw you scrolling, and I saw that you had a dating app installed on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been with anybody else while we've been talking over the past 4 months?
Okay, so that's a good question. She saw this dating app on her phone, and now Stephanie is wondering if she's been with anyone else. I wonder if there's a better way to ask that, like it comes across as accusatory, right? I wonder if there's a better way to ask that, something like, so I saw this dating app on your phone. I don't want to accuse you of anything because I don't have any reason to doubt you. But when I saw that dating app, I was flooded with fears that you might be seeing other people and not telling me about it. I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just saying when I saw that app, that's what I thought. And so I just throw that out there. Usually that's all you need to say. And the other person will not feel accused and will provide an explanation. Now, maybe the explanation is that Erika has been seeing other people. I don't know. Let's see what she says.
No.
Okay. Can you just let me know why you still have a dating app on your phone?
Yeah, I still have one of the dating apps because there is a business networking side of that app, but I don't use the relationship side of that.
Okay.
Okay, it's an interesting response. It sounds like it's not Tinder because I can't imagine using Tinder for business applications, but there are a lot of apps where it is both for social and I guess for business, I didn't know that, and for dating. It's not unheard of. From Erika's perspective, I think a helpful thing here would be to grab the phone and click on it and say, look, here's what I've been doing the past couple of months. I've been actually communicating about getting jobs as a photographer or something along those lines. That might have helped a little bit, but okay, sounds like a reasonable explanation. Again, more context might have helped here for Erika to explain. She gave a succinct and believable explanation, but maybe it would help to kind of expand on that a little bit. Well, what kind of business are you talking about? Well, this is what I use it for. I used to use it for dating, but then it switched to this, especially now that I'm with you. And you also notice she said something, well, I have one dating app, so it sounds like in the past when she wasn't with Stephanie, she had other dating apps on her phone. So she could have said, actually, I've deleted all the other dating apps that I used actually for dating.
Well, I mean, would you be open to deleting the app?
So Stephanie asked nicely. I'll give her that. But you want to give more context. You want to you want to own your own feelings, and you don't want to make demands of someone, because if Erika uses that for business, then why would she delete it, right? So from Stephanie's perspective, it makes sense that she'd be a little scared or worried about seeing a dating app on her girlfriend's phone. Now, I just want to say this because it really applies to a lot of situations, and it might help you out there. We all have uncertainty about our partners being faithful to us. There's no way to know if your partner is truly being faithful. And it's just one of the things that we just have to deal with. And when you have secure attachment, when you're raised well, you manage that anxiety usually functionally. When you have insecure attachment, you tend to focus on it, and it's particularly if you're preoccupied attachment, but also avoidant people too, because you've been taught early in life that people will leave you and abandon you or hurt you or something. And so when there's any indication that that's going to happen again, you really focus on it as a threat. And I'm guessing that Stephanie fits the bill for an insecure attachment. I don't know. It's always a speculation for me when I watch the show. But so instead of making a demand like, I need you to get rid of that app, a more functional thing to do is to notice your feelings first. So, okay, what feelings am I having? Right now, because you have that app, I feel afraid I'm going to lose you. I'm afraid you're going to find someone else better than me. And that terrifies me. Okay, so you notice that inside you. And then you say that. When I see that app, it scares me. And then just put it out there. There's nothing wrong with wanting reassurance. There's nothing wrong with Stephanie saying, Erika, that app triggered me. I have traumas about being cheated on or whatever. And Erika, could you reassure me that you really like me and that you're not actually dating other people? I'm just looking for some reassurance. I'm sorry to put you in that position, Erika. You shouldn't need to do that, but I'm really worried right now, and you could really help me out by reassuring me. There is nothing wrong with being jealous and asking for reassurance. There's nothing wrong with feeling unloved and asking for someone to tell you that and convince you that they love you. There's nothing wrong with that. There is something potentially dysfunctional about controlling other people. And so this is a red flag of when Stephanie feels that fear that everyone feels, and there's nothing wrong with that. Instead of asking for reassurance in a functional way, instead of owning our own feelings and communicating that in a functional way, she's going to make a demand. I don't know if this is a trend of things to come, who knows, but it's a bit of a concern.
If you don't have faith in me, then how is this going to work,
I don't think it should be such a big deal to just delete it.
And that's what I'm doing right now, because you told me to. Steph asking me to delete this app suggests to me that she doesn't trust me at all. And I think she's going about this in a completely inappropriate way.
Right. That's the message, is that for Erika, she's like, I don't use it for dating right now, and I use it for business. And the shortcut for Stephanie is, we'll get rid of the app. As if you just want to evaluate, whenever they do this sort of thing, you just want to evaluate it. For the Stephanies of the world, you want to try to evaluate the rationality of that demand. Because let's say, so from Stephanie's perspective right now, she's saying, I want you to get rid of that app because if you have that app, then that might lead to you cheating on me or something. She's not being explicit, but that's pretty clear, right? So by implication, Erika is at the verge of cheating on Stephanie, and getting rid of the app will eliminate that possibility. Well, that's absurd because she obviously could download the app again in the middle of the night, or she could hide the app from her in the future, or she could cheat on her without the app. It's not like you need an app on your phone to cheat on someone. So it's a strange demand. It's a strange, it's not worth the cost, right? You're making a demand and you're inserting negativity to what end? Now, why would someone do that? Why would Stephanie do that? Why would she risk that in that moment? There's a lot of possibilities. One is that she has been modeled demanding behavior. Her mom came across as a little, I don't know, not very mature, I would say. The mom was rolling her eyes a lot and doing a lot of this, real kind of passive communication rather than just, she eventually, the mother did communicate in a functional way, I thought, by just saying, you know what, Stephanie, I'm just really worried about you. And that was functional. But there's a lot of anytime you see someone rolling their eyes a lot and, oh boy, what are we doing? Then, it lends itself to an immature mode that people get into because you're trying to communicate something in frankly, a childish way. There's a way to communicate eye rolling without rolling your eyes. Like, you just say, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I have to say there's some part of that I don't like. So, you use your words. You parents out there, you're always telling your kids, don't scream, don't throw the things, don't roll your eyes, don't have a fit, use your words. Well, it's the same for adults. Rolling your eyes is not using your words. Now, I roll my eyes in jest or when I'm not in a fight with my wife or something, so it's not like rolling your eyes automatically means you're immature, but intention. Anyway. So that's just very little data on the mom. So we just have no idea. But there's a chance that for Stephanie, she's had that modeled to her, controlling behavior. When you don't like something, you have the right to control that in someone else. So it causes you to think that it's ethical if you've had that modeled to you to do that to other people. The other possibility is that she has traumas around dating apps and that has caused her to become overreactive to that. She might also just feel entitled. There's schemas around entitlement, meaning that if you're raised in a particular way, you will sometimes develop a maladaptive schema that you're entitled. You didn't have enough limits on your behavior growing up, and you just think it's okay to make demands on other people, that your entitlement is bigger than other people's. There's also a possibility that she's extremely scared, Stephanie, and she is desperate in this moment and grasping at anything to solve her problem. And to her, she just wants to get rid of that app as a desperate measure of solving for her jealousy. But I don't know. Let's see if we can get more data on that as we move forward.
The dating app.
Yeah, but to be taken on a date and told that you want me to feel like a princess and them to question me about an app on my phone.
Okay, but
It kind of takes the romance out.
it makes me uncomfortable. I have put a lot on the line to be here.
Everything makes you uncomfortable. Everything.
I just asked you simply to delete a dating app. That's all I asked you to do.
So I don't know if you've listened to or watched my other videos, but there's always this point in a conflict with a couple where they turn a corner and it's no longer in the help. Prior to this moment, it was still possibly salvageable. There was some not so great things that were happening, but it hadn't turned that corner. And they've turned the corner. Now maybe it's called bickering, maybe that's what I'll call it, where essentially you're just trying to win the argument and you're not really listening, and everything that is said is counter. It's like ammunition. You're in a battle and you're just trying to fight each other. You're trying to win, and in essence both lose. So this is troubling. So what am I looking for? What I'd be looking for is for Erika to just slow down and say, okay, Stephanie, I understand. The dating app triggered you, and that makes sense to me, that seeing a dating app would scare you, and you're allowed that. But I just have to say, I don't like being made to feel like I'm a cheater. I don't. It hurt my feelings when you made me feel like I was guilty, guilty before proven innocent. And I feel like you think like I'm a terrible person, and that if I have an app on my phone that I use for business, somehow I'm going to cheat on you, which I just have to say is a hurtful accusation to me. What I'm looking for from Stephanie is to say something like, okay, I'm sorry. Thank you for deleting the app. I'm just a very jealous person, and it's just something you're just going to have to know, and we'll try to manage it together. I don't know if it's the right thing that I just did. I'm just really afraid of losing you. Jealous people out there, a wonderful thing you can learn about yourself and own and communicate is, I'm afraid of losing you. Say that with me. I'm afraid of losing you. Own that, because that's what's happening. That's what jealousy is, unless it's envy, which is a different thing. But I'm afraid of losing you. Just say that. Don't say, where were you all night? Or why are you looking at your phone all the time? Or you talked to that man for a little bit longer than I thought you. Just say, when I saw that, it triggered my fears of losing you. To be told, if you're Erika, I'm afraid, say Stephanie says to Erika, I'm afraid of losing you. If you're Erika, you're like, oh, well, that's nice, because I'm afraid of losing you too. But let me reassure you, you're not going to lose me. Then you're talking about the reality. Then you're talking about what's really happening. To talk about a dating app is to not talk about what's really happening. So a lot of people don't talk about jealousy in a functional way, particularly on the show. So this doesn't bode well. I wonder if they can, get this back on the tracks.
It's gone, Steph. You demanded that I deleted it. I deleted it.
I didn't demand.
Fine,
I
okay.
asked you.
Buying me presents doesn't mean you get to control me.
You just completely, you know what? You actually don't understand me at all. And I thought you understood me, and you don't at all.
So it makes sense that Erika would be upset about control and about demand, because it definitely came across that way, especially early on in a relationship. Usually that kind of behavior, it gets worse unless there's an intervention, unless the person who is feeling the jealousy and resorting to control really understands their cycle, because this probably isn't Stephanie's first time of feeling jealousy and resorting to control and demands. So it makes sense that Erika would be upset. It makes sense that Erika would want to complain about that. There's ways of communicating it that I'm guessing Stephanie would have been able to hear, but there you go. And then for Stephanie, she just said something very interesting. She's starting to melt down, as I might call it, and which is understandable given the emotionality of the situation. And she's saying, I thought you understood me. That's an interesting statement. I thought you understood me. So let's analyze that. What could that mean? Well, my suspicion is that for Stephanie, she has a schema of feeling misunderstood, meaning that early in life, she was frequently misunderstood. And maybe it was those traumas being a kid at the age of, I don't know, it was in grade school when she came to the United States and couldn't speak English and didn't feel understood. I don't know if it's that. Maybe if it's between her and her mom, who knows. But the point is that maybe she has this schema, this maladaptive schema, this belief about herself that's infused in her personality, that people don't understand her. And when people don't understand her, she doesn't get her needs met, or bad things happen to her. That when she's understood, then good things will happen, which makes sense, right? But she might have the schema like, frequently people don't understand me, that frequently people leave me due to a lack of seeing eye to eye on something. I don't know. And up until this point, because things were going relatively well and they hadn't had conflict, because they were just doing nice talk over the internet, she has felt understood, and that's very important to her. And in this moment, there's conflict, and she seems to be falling into something right now where it's like, I am not understood. She doesn't understand me, and that is very difficult for me. I don't know. I'm just commenting on stuff that I'm seeing. Let's see if we see more of that schema cropping up in the future.
What? So, this date is actually over?
You know what?
Wow, you could just, seriously off. Let's go.
I'm not your princess.
Bye. Go.
You don't treat me like a princess.
Wow. It always is interesting how quickly people can go from, how many seconds was that? 43 seconds from nice romantic talk to yelling at each other and telling each other to F off and walking out. That's interesting. Now, so we're seeing a few things here, is that Erika is walking away, which is a behavior that will keep, because that usually indicates something. It can often involve avoiding attachment. It doesn't always, but it's just something to as a data point that we can monitor. And for Stephanie, she is having that, how do I say it? Having that voice or that position of, I'm being victimized. That's the vibe she's giving off of. And it's common for people to go there when they're hurt, but we'll see if that mode comes up a lot where she's falling into this place of like, you are victimizing me. Because at least from the outside, I don't see her being victimized in this situation. The other thing that she is saying is she's using really harsh language. You can F off right now. That's a pretty harsh thing to say to anyone, let alone someone that you're thinking about being with for the rest of your life. So that's another data point that we'll monitor. I'm always looking for the different modes that people go into because according to schema therapy, and listen to my deep dives on that by becoming a patron of the podcast, by the way, you go to patreon.com, become a patron, you get access to hundreds of episodes in which I talk about attachment theory and schema therapy and personality disorders and all sorts of things. But in schema therapy, so you have these maladaptive schemas, these infused belief systems in your personality. And then from that, you have these different modes that you usually operate from that the schemas will inform. And so the mode, I'm always looking for modes. So let's see if we see more data here. Having said all that, I'm terribly disheartened by these two. Things escalated very quickly. I wish that Stephanie would have communicated this in a more functional way. I think things would have gone a lot better for her. So it's not a good sign because usually these things don't get better on the show. When I say Stephanie's going into a victim stance, I'm not saying that it's fake or anything. I absolutely believe that Stephanie is hurting deeply right now, just as Erika is as well. So I'm not saying Stephanie's being fake. You would have to be an extremely good actor to act like this when you weren't actually hurt, by the way. And people aren't usually very good actors. Even actors aren't this good at acting. So there's a very, very high chance that right now Stephanie is deeply, deeply hurt, and that a lot of past traumas are coming back for her right now. That's usually what I see when I see these moments right now. You know, on these shows, unless you think about it, you just think that, you know, the world just sprouted forth Stephanie and now she's dating. But of course, Stephanie's 29, I think. She's had years and years of being hurt. And she said that she's had many failed relationships. I don't like the word fail because it implies that the only success is if it's forever. And there's a lot of different types of relationships. But anyway, I suspect right now for Stephanie, this is really deep for her. Now we could say that she caused this to happen, or at least she contributed a great deal to it. But anyway, let's continue watching.
It shouldn't have been a big deal. I just asked her to delete an app that bothered me.
It's not just what you did. It makes sense right now, Stephanie, that you're emotional and you're triggered, and that's the way it feels to you. And that's one aspect to it, but another aspect to it, and maybe Erika could have helped Stephanie out by pointing this out more in a more palatable way for Stephanie, that you made Erika feel like she's a cheater and that she can't be trusted, and that you need to control her behavior in order for Erika to be a good enough person for you. That's the message you gave to her. You didn't just ask her to delete an app.
I honestly don't see how, I could come back from that. Because she really just showed her true colors to me just then and there. And I really just want to go home now.
Yeah, it makes sense. A lot of people, that's where they get to. It'd be interesting. Will she just fly home after this? I think they're midway through the season right now. Yeah, it makes sense. You're just well, I guess that's the end of that relationship. And particularly since they just started dating, and if you have a big blow up like that, if me and my wife have a tiff, we've been together a long time. I can bank on the fact that every time we have a tiff, we've recovered. And so when you're first starting to date, you're just like, well, we've never had a tiff and recovered from that. So maybe this is the end of the relationship. But the thing I want to point out is that I have cat hair on my face. We have a new cat, by the way, so it's lots of fur and cuddle times. But for Stephanie, she just said something very interesting. Erika just showed her true colors. This is a very common thing that people will say is like, now I see the real person. No, you did not see the real person. What you saw was the triggered person, the person that you triggered with your actions. You saw a very distressed, highly triggered, regressed human being. You did not see the true side of them. So that's one narrative that I often see people say in culture is just like, oh, the true, the real so-and-so comes out. They're so two-faced, this kind of thing. It's like, no, you just saw someone get triggered, and then when people get triggered, they go into fight, flight, freeze, or appease, and they do things that they would never do normally, including you, Stephanie. All right, that's heartbreaking. Well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Thanks for joining me out there. Please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.